Now, as you know, we have pigeons that come into our garden. We don't like to encourage the bunnies either. But it is Easter Sunday today, and the Easter bunny has been. In today's video, we want to talk to you about the changes that we've made to our garden. We have made one or two changes. Hello and welcome to the New Dig Norfolk Gardener channel. Now it is Easter, it's the Easter weekend, and it's lovely for us because like probably most of you, I have to work 5 days a week. And so it's really good to have this bank holiday weekend where we can really push the garden on and complete some jobs that we want to complete. Now, there's been one or two changes that's happened in the garden. You have seen me stand here many times and talking to you to camera, but we've erected a pergola. And we've got some plans for this which we want to utilise again to grow more things for the garden, and we shall film that throughout the year as we do the things that we do to it, and you can see what we actually are going to do. Now the weather is warming up, and it has now that we're in April. As I said, it is the Easter bank holiday, and I was just looking back in my notes from last year in my little black book. As you know, I always keep a little black book that I write things down in. This time last year in April, we had 17 nights where we had frosts of -5 degrees or greater. This April we haven't seen that. Now, thankfully, this time last year, because it was so cold, our potatoes had hardly broken through the ground, so we were able to cover those with fleece so that the frost didn't harm them. Different story this year though. If you look behind, you'll see that the potatoes are all through and growing away really quite well. And of course, we haven't been bothered by any frosts. And as I often say to you on my videos, we live in the county of Norfolk in the UK, and we garden in zone 9A. And when I check with the weather stations of our last frost dates, they are actually this weekend. So mid-April is when we are predicted to have our last frost. Now, of course, it doesn't mean to say that we're not going to get a frost. The weather could change in the next week or so. We never quite know, but we can only go by averages. But what I will do with the potatoes now that they're through and at this height, if I see on the weather forecast that we're likely to be getting frosts, I shall actually just cover them over with a little bit of compost so that they're not affected by the frosts. Now the broad beans are doing really well too, with all this nice mild weather that we've been having. You can actually see that these flowers, as they're dying off, you can see that the pod is just now starting to grow on there. So it's not going to be too long before we have some lovely broad beans to eat. And that's the great thing about the spring. Everything's starting to spring into life, and you're thinking, yeah, it's not going to be too long before we get some lovely fresh harvests. Now you can see that the peas are doing really quite well. And as I said, when we put these posts in for the framework and the structure to hold the peas, we would need to cover them because we had problems with pigeons last year pecking the tops out, and they took an absolute age to grow. We did eventually get a crop, but it did actually take an age to grow. So we've purposely put covers on these, and they'll stay there probably until they get somewhere this high, by which time, hopefully, they can continue to grow and they'll be unaffected by the pigeons. Not least because last year we were using bamboo canes and we were putting horizontal structures along as well, so I think they could sit on them and actually keep pecking away at it. The fact that we're using string, that's not going to be heavy enough to take their weight. So fingers crossed, that works. Now another thing that we've decided to do, bearing in mind we only started our YouTube channel late last June, and we'd already converted our beds over to no dig. And I always talk about no dig, but I always talk about the virtues of it, and you know, I can't really compare. I know the difference, but you guys that are watching that are maybe not no dig, I have nothing for you to compare with. So what I've decided to do is, for this crop only, is that you can see I have put the compost here, but in the strip next door, that's just been dug, and it's not no dig at this moment. Now, I shall convert that back into no dig once these have cropped. I just want to be able to show the differences, and we're going to make a whole video on that so that everybody can see the differences. But even just looking at it now, everything that I've sort of said you should do, I have done in this bed. And you can see they look really quite healthy, lovely and green, lush. They're growing away. And if you remember, and if you didn't see this, you can go back to our planting out our cabbages and calabrese. They went in as really quite tiny plants. But next door, in the section that is not no dig at this moment in time, firstly, I've let these plants grow on in the greenhouse, so they're actually quite leggy and quite a bit bigger. And to me anyway, visually, they don't look as healthy and as green as the ones you just saw in the no dig bed. Now, this is not to say that you're not going to get a harvest from this, because not everybody is no dig. I just want to be able to, hopefully through the video we'll release later on in the year, show the differences of how that same crop has grown there, and there are calabrese and there are cabbage in there, and in this bed too there's calabrese and cabbage. And interestingly, I also planted some beetroot in here. You can see these are in no dig, and they're growing away really quite nicely. But then when I compare it to this bit here, where this isn't no dig at the moment, they don't look so good. So one of the things I am thinking is that, you know, within the no dig bed, things do get away much quicker and are looking much healthier much earlier. It may be that these will catch up over a period of time, but I shall continue filming this, and you know, as I say, we'll make a whole video on that and you can judge for yourselves. Now, in the last video we made where we did a garden tour for you, I wasn't able to show you the carrots, but you can see there are definite lines now where the carrots are germinating, and yeah, they're on their way. And I've just uncovered these temporarily. I haven't thinned anything yet, so there isn't too much danger of carrot fly, but I just uncovered them temporarily so that you can see, you know, how the germination is going with these. And I should be covering these up again straight away once we just finish this video. Now, it's certainly not too late to sow your carrots. It's a great time of the year. April is a good month to sow your carrots. But these have been in here, what, a couple of weeks now, and you can see that the germination is now starting to happen. Hopefully it won't be long before we have some lovely sweet carrots. Now, I've brought you into the greenhouse because, as I say, you know, April is such a busy time of the year, and you can see here our aubergines. They now need potting on once more, and it'll probably be the last time they're potted on until they actually go into the greenhouse borders. You can see the tomatoes are doing really well too. But there is something I do need to tell you. If you watched our January and February jobs for the month to do, you'd have heard me saying about sowing these things a bit early, putting them on heat mats so that they get a good early start. And one of the reasons that I gave for that is that things can go wrong. And if they do, you still have time to actually sow those seeds and get a second chance at it. That has happened to us. Now, we bought some compost in good faith. We got the aubergines and our peppers to germinate. They germinated really well. And then we transplanted them into this new compost. And they all shriveled and died. Now, I don't know whether it was that compost. My feeling is it probably is. But certainly the plants within, I mean, really within about 2 or 3 days, they just keeled over and died. We did try to save them by repotting them into our normal compost variety that we use, but we couldn't save them. So we really had to resow our peppers and aubergines toward the end of February and early March. So we did manage to get a second hit at it, which is really quite great, and we still have a chance to grow these wonderful plants. Also, you can see that all of our flowers have come on. We made a video about pollinators and why we like to put flowers now and dot them about in our vegetable patches. And you see the marigolds have come on really quite well. They've been potted on from the tray that we originally potted them out in. We've got lupins. They're coming away really quite nicely now and looking great. There's some dill and dahlias. They're looking really quite good. So all of these flowers that we've been growing, the zinnias, the dahlias, the tagetes, the marigolds, lupins, whatever else we've been growing, because there are one or two here, they will go out toward the end of May when all danger of frost has completely passed, because they do like the warmth. What we've also been up to, our celeriac has germinated. You haven't seen me do that on film, but I'm making a whole video about that from seed to harvest, and celeriac is one of those vegetables that we really love. Not everybody thinks that. They probably think they're not going to like it, because actually it probably looks quite an ugly vegetable when you come to harvest it. It doesn't look the prettiest of vegetables, but it really is a lovely vegetable to use and is worth its weight in gold during the autumn and winter months when it stores well, and you can get a nice milder celery flavour than celery. The other thing we've been up to is, probably like most of you, you have some rhubarb that you grow. We have rhubarb crowns at the top of the garden that we grow already, but there was a particular variety that I wanted to get and was struggling to get hold of as a crown, which was a variety called Victoria. So I've actually had a go at sowing rhubarb seed. Now, of course, it's going to be quite a while before these give a crop, but again, it's one of those things I thought, right, I'll try. We're going to keep filming this and make a whole video on it, and you can see just how we get on. The other thing that's really lovely to see at the moment is that the osteospermum that we overwintered in the greenhouse, it's now out in flower. And also the nasturtiums on the other side, where they've sort of self-seeded themselves, they've all come out too. And as I say, April is such a busy month. What we shall be doing this weekend, and we shall put a video out about it later on this week, we need to sow seeds from the family of cucurbits, which include courgettes, squash, pumpkins and cucumber. So this is our Stumpery, and it's been purposely planted here to try and attract wildlife, and hopefully you can see on the camera that there's lots of bees buzzing around here. Oh, they've just buzzed off. They'll be back though. Bees love things like comfrey, and you can see we've got comfrey growing here. And yeah, it just helps to attract the wildlife into the garden, the insects, the bees. And you know, now that we are in April, it is such an amazing time of the year. Today, while we've been out and about in the garden, we've spotted bumblebees, we've actually seen wasps, hoverflies, hover bees. They're all out busy collecting nectar, pollinating our fruit. Just amazing. And lastly, just a quick look at this last bed. This is the allium bed. You can see the onions have been uncovered now. They no longer have their fleece cover over them. They've got away really nicely and looking really quite good. So really pleased with that. Shallots too look really good, and so does the garlic. And of course, we're still getting plenty of harvests from the spinach that we planted last September. I just wanted to quickly just show you here that, if you remember, we planted some new strawberry varieties in our new strawberry bed, but to hedge our bets, we actually planted some here, and we have some strawberry flowers. So regardless whatever happened to the new bed that we've made, we shall have strawberries this year. It's been a busy and full-on bank holiday weekend this Easter. We've managed to complete much, and it won't be too long now before our grandchildren are around, and we are looking forward to those. And they'll be really excited that the Easter Bunny has come to the New Dig vegetable garden, and they'll be on an Easter egg hunt. I hope you've had a good Easter weekend, whether it be in the garden or not, but I hope it's gone really well for you. And let us know what you've been up to in your garden this weekend. We always do really love getting your comments, and I always try to answer them as quickly and as honestly as possible. One or two of the new subscribers that we've had lately, even they've been getting involved and sending me comments, and it's just absolutely fantastic. There's been one or two good ideas that have been thrown out there, and that's the great thing about having a thriving garden community where we can all talk to each other. Everybody can read the comments, and you know, there's some good ideas on there that we can all use, not least about my pigeon problems. I've had one or two comments about that, and it's something that we should be looking into. Anyway, I have to go. I think I can hear my grandchildren coming. So have a great rest of your weekend, and we shall see you on the next video.